This video is intended for current users of the Game Caddie Record Book who want to update to the latest version by transferring over data from your old database to the new database. If you are a new user to the Game Caddie Record Book and don't have any old data, you'll need to refer to the instructions that came with your copy of the Game Caddie to get it set up, because there's a lot more things that you've got to do than we will cover in this video. Okay, so you've got your old database and you've got your new database. So that you're able to follow along in this video, the new database is Game Caddie Record Book 3.5, and what we want to do is put some of our old data into this database because it comes with table scorecards completely empty. Now, before you make any changes, I strongly suggest that you make a backup copy of your old database, and you can do that by calling up your old database, opening it up, clicking on File, clicking Save As, coming over here, clicking up Backup Database, and then click Save As. That way, if anything goes wrong, you've still got your old data and you can repeat the process if necessary. Now, I've already gone ahead and done that with my database, so I won't take up time in this video to do that here. So we'll go back to our new database. I want to open it up so that it's a little bit easier to work with, and to do that, I'll just go ahead and click on one of the tabs up here and pin that ribbon to the top. Come over here and click on the double arrow to open the shutter bar. This is the area that we're going to focus on in this video, and in fact, we really don't need to port over data from some of these tables because the data is unchanged. The four tables that we're going to focus most closely on are table golf courses, table golfers, table player countries, and table scorecards. In particular, table scorecards, because that's got all of our round data in it. If you have not added any golfers to the database from the time that you got your original copy, or you haven't added any golf courses, or you haven't added any player countries, then really the only change you're going to need to make is to copy and paste table scorecards into your new database, and then update some of the relationships that table has with some of the other tables. And I'll show you exactly how to do that. Okay, so this is the new database. I'm going to go ahead and click on table scorecards, double click on it to show you that it's empty. There's nothing in here, so you can't run any reports or look at anything because there's nothing really to look at. We'll go ahead and we'll close that, and we'll open up the old database. Now, my old database is going to look different than your old database because I keep a kind of a master database, but I'll go ahead and show you that. And this is my database. I need to come down here to the Form menu to open it up because I don't always use that. But you can see that it looks similar to your database perhaps, but I've customized some of the tournament names and I've added a bunch of courses to it with the new feature that's available in Game Caddie Record Book 3.5. All right, none of that will make any difference. I just want to make sure that you don't get confused between what you're looking at and what you see here on the screen. All right, so let's go back up here to the top, and we're going to first transfer over table scorecards. So this part is probably pretty familiar to you. All you have to do is click on table scorecards and then right click. We want to copy it, right? And then we'll come up here to File. Click on Open, select the new database, come over to the same table name, Table Scorecards, right click, and paste. We want to paste over the structure and data, but we need to change the name of the table to match Table Scorecards. And now we can click on OK. When we do that, it tells us, well, that table already exists. Do you want to replace it? The answer is yes, because it's empty. And now it's telling us, well, it's got to get rid of some of these relationships before it can paste it in. We're going to say yes to this. We'll go ahead and manually restore those relationships. Okay, so the way that we do that is to come up here to Database Tools, click on that, and then click on Relationships. And there are 4 relationships that need to be restored. This is Table Scorecards right here. This is what we just pasted in. And when we pasted it in, we broke its relationships with table win conditions, table course conditions, table golfers, and with table tournaments. But it's really easy to restore these. So the first thing we'll do is click on Golfer ID under Table Scorecards, and holding down the left mouse key, we'll drag it up here to Table Golfers over the item called Golfer ID. It's the one with the key next to it, and we'll release. And now this Edit Relationships box pops up, and all we have to do in this case is click on Create. And now that relationship has been restored. And I'm going to do exactly the same kind of thing with the other 3 tables. So I'll come down here to Tournament Number, hold down the left mouse key, drag it over to Tournament Number, the one with the key across from it, and release, and click on Create. And that relationship is restored. Coming down to Day Win, click on it, left click, come up to Table Win Conditions, drag with the left mouse key down up to ID, it's the one with the key next to it, and release, click on Create. That relationship is restored. Day Condition, click on that, hold down the left mouse key, come over to Table Course Conditions, drag it to ID, one with the key next to it, and release, and click on Create. And now all 4 relationships have been restored. We'll close this out, come over here to Table Scorecards, double click on it, and you'll see that all of the data, including, in this case, 14,580 holes worth of data, have been now ported into the new database. Okay. As I said before, if you haven't made any changes to the golfers in Table Golfers, or added any player countries, or added any golf courses, at this point you are good to go. But there is obviously the possibility that you have made some changes. Now I'm going to double click. Well, let me close this out so we don't get too many headings up here. I'm going to double click on Table Golf Courses. Now these are the golf courses that come with the Game Caddie Record Book 3.5. And as long as you're playing one of these courses, there's nothing that you need to do. But if you want to add a course that's not on this list, then in addition to adding in the information down here, or copy and pasting, as we've already described, what you're going to need to do is to edit the module called MPAR. It's down here at near the bottom of the Access Objects list in Modules, second from the last. And the way that you edit it is double click on it, and what it does is it calls up some code that tells the record book how to score each hole, and whether scores are above and below par. Now the default par for every hole is 4, and what this code does is it changes that in the cases of par 3s and par 5s. So if we were to look at an example here of badger links, every hole except the ones listed here are a par 4. So hole 2, hole 5, hole 11, hole 16 are all par 5s. Holes 3, 7, 12, and 17 are par 3s. So you need to add that information into this module so that it scores correctly. Now, you can just type it in on your own if you want to. The simplest thing to do is to perhaps find a course that's already in here that has the same par. So I'm going to give you an example of Gopher Lakes, which I think is a par 72. But anyway, it has 4 par 5s and it has 4 par 3s. Okay? Now, if the course that I want to put in has that, all I would need to do is select this copy, right-click, copy it, and then create a space alphabetically so that you can see Empire State, Gopher Lakes, Jersey Pines. These are all in alphabetical order. And so if the next one that I wanted to put in fell, let's say between G and J, I could add some space in there, click here, and then right-click, and I could paste. And then I would go in and edit the second Gopher Lakes. So I would change this. I don't know the actual par of Hampton, but let's say that that's the course that we were going to put in. So I would just change the course name and then make sure that the par 3s and par 5s matched up with what I've got written over here. So whatever the first par 5 is, I would change this number to match that. Again, I'm making up numbers there. I don't know the actual course par values for Hamptons. Okay, so once you're done with that, then what you need to do is come over here and save it and close it out, go back to the screen that we were looking at before. Now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this so that we don't mess anything up. And that should just take a second. And now we're back to the table golf courses. And I'll go ahead and close that out. For table golfers and for player countries, again, you can make changes manually if you wish to. If, on the other hand, you've made so many changes, let's say you've added, 100 golfers and it's just not practical for you to enter all of those by hand, you can copy and paste those over, but be aware that you are going to need to restore relationships. And in fact, because of the way that these relationships work, if you're going to do both of these, I suggest you wait until you get the second one done before you bother to restore the relationships. Otherwise, you'll just have to do it twice. Now, I'm going to show you what I just said so that that's not confusing for you. You'll notice that in Table Golfers, we've got 307 records that are in here. And that's what you'll get when you have your copy of 3.5, meaning Game Caddie Record Book 3.5. That's all of the golfers that I've got set up in my database. So, and there is the possibility that you've coded your golfers differently than I have, and I explained in other documentation that I've sent out and in videos that I've done how I went about coding these golfers, if you can't figure it out just from eyeballing it. But you do need to make sure that the golfers are all coded consistently. But let me show you how to port these over from the old database. So again, we'll click on File, We're going to click on Open. Here's my old database. Here's Table Golfers. I'll right click. I'll copy. Click on File. Open the new database. Click on Table Golfers. Right click. Paste. I'm going to change this back to Table Golfers. Keep this selected, structure and data. The name you entered already exists. We know that. I'm going to click yes. It's going to tell me I've got relationships that have to be deleted. I'm going to click on that. Right? But rather than going in and restoring those relationships, and I'll show you what I mean here. These are the relationships here that have been broken that need to be restored. Because we want to also copy the table player countries, we're going to, in essence, delete those same relationships. So rather than restoring them, deleting them, and then restoring them again, we'll just do this all at once. So we'll go back to the old database. Here, click on Player Countries, right click, copy, click on File, open the new database, click on Player Countries, right click, paste, change the name back to Table Player Countries, keep this selected, click on OK, yes it exists, and now because those relationships are already been deleted, it didn't give us that second prompt. So now we'll go into Database Tools, click on Relationships, and the way that you restore these relationships is a little bit different than how we did it down here. It's not complicated, but it is a little bit different. So what you want to do is click on Player Country under Table Golfers and left click and drag it over to Country ID, release, and instead of clicking Create, what you need to do now is click on Enforce Referential Integrity, click on Cascade Update Related Fields, now click Create, and we've restored that relationship. Same thing over here with country abbreviations. Click on that, hold down the left mouse key, come over to Country ID, release, come down here, click on Enforce Referential Integrity, click on Cascade Update Related Fields, and Create. There's one more relationship we need to reestablish. You may recall that we had a join between Golfer ID and Table Scorecards and Golfer ID and Table Golfers. So we want to go ahead and recreate that one. In the same way, clicking the left mouse key, holding it down, dragging it up to Golfer ID, and release. And we don't need to enforce referential integrity on this one, so we'll just go ahead and click Create. Okay. And now all of your data has been ported over for you. If you want to change these tournament names to something more specific, the easiest way to do that, again, if you've got old tournament names you want to bring over, you can certainly do it that way, but perhaps what's easier is to double click on Table Tournaments and then just type in the names that you want for those tournaments. Remembering that tournament number 3 is always non-tournament. You cannot change that. Well, you can change it, but it'll mess things up for you. That is always for rounds that you play that are not part of a tournament. Always code them with a tournament number 3. And that will give you the ability then to run those T99 reports because those are designed for non-tournament data and they're looking for that tournament number 3. All right. If you want to see an example of this in action and some of the data that we've got in here now, what we can do, because I've ported over not only my Magnolia data and Seaside data, I've also got the ones for the other courses, but I don't have buttons for them in this version of my record book, or the one that I'm sending out to you. But I can click on Seaside Reports, and 10 of those will run at one time, and they will produce a pretty hefty data set. So it will give this a chance to run through all the fairway rankings, the greens and regulation rankings that it's doing, sand save rankings, longest drive, longest putt, putts per round, and now all of those have been created with that new data. And we could come down here to Windows Explorer and look for those courses. There's Seaside right there. And want to see, what the scoring by hole looks like for Seaside with all your old data. There you go. Lots of rounds of data. 256. All right, that's it for this video. Hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions, email me, smoller9@gmail.com. Until next time, grip it and rip it.